If you have opened this video, your curiosity will be, what is the gateway experience? To explain it to you, we will make a brief historical excursus. Let's start from the 50s. Robert Monroe, a radio broadcasting executive, begins producing evidence that specific sound patterns have identifiable effects on human capabilities. These include alertness, sleepiness, and expanded states of consciousness. In 1956, Monroe forms an rogue division inside his radio program production corporation, RAM Enterprises. The goal is to study sound's effect on human consciousness. He was obsessed with sleep learning, or hypnopedia, which exposes sleepers to sound recordings to boost memory of previously learned information. While experimenting with sleep learning in 1958, Monroe discovers an unusual phenomenon. He describes it as sensations of paralysis and vibration accompanied by bright light. It allegedly happens 9 times over the preceding 6 weeks and culminates in an out-of-body experience, called also OB. In 1962, RAM Enterprises moves to Virginia and renames itself Monroe Industries. It becomes active in radio station ownership, cable television, and later in the production and sale of audio cassettes. These cassettes contain applied learnings from the corporate research program, which is renamed the Monroe Institute. In 1971, Monroe publishes Journeys Out of the Body, a book that is credited with popularizing the term out-of-body experience. 1 year later, a classified report circulates in the US military and intelligence communities. It claims that the Soviet Union is pouring money into research involving SP and psychokinesis for espionage purposes. In 1975, Monroe registers the first of several patents concerning audio techniques designed to stimulate brain functions until the left and right hemispheres become synchronized. Monroe dubs the state Hemi-sync, hemispheric synchronization, and claims it could be used to promote mental well-being or to trigger an altered state of consciousness. From 1978 to 1984, Army veteran Joseph McMiniagle contributes to 450 remote viewing missions under Project Stargate. He is known as Remote View No One, but this is kind of a whole other story. Please let me know if you're interested in this story by leaving a comment below. The CI Report Analysis and Assessment of the Gateway Process, dated June 9, 1983, is produced. It provides a scientific framework for understanding and expanding human consciousness, out-of-body experiments, and other altered states of mind. In 1989, another remote viewer, Angela Della Fiora Ford, helps track down a former customs agent who has gone on the run. She pinpoints his location as Lowell, Wyoming, US. Customs apprehend him 100 miles west of a Wyoming town called Lovell. In 2003, the CIA approves declassification of the Gateway Process Report. At last, in 2017, the CIA declassifies 12 million pages of records, revealing previously unknown details about the program, which would eventually become known as Project Stargate. Okay, now that we have some historical background, we can talk about the Gateway Process Report. The author is Lieutenant Colonel Wayne M. McDonnell, hereon referred to simply as Wayne. There isn't a tremendous amount of information available on the man, nor any photographs. In 1983, Wayne was tasked by the commander of the US Army Operational Group with figuring out how the gateway experience, astral projection, and out-of-body experiences work. Wayne partnered with a bunch of different folks to produce the report. most notably Itzhak Bentov, a very Googleable American, Israeli scientist who helped pioneer the biomedical engineering industry. From the outset of the report, Wayne states his intent to employ an objective scientific method in order to understand the gateway process. The various scientific avenues he takes include a biomedical inquiry to understand the physical aspects of the process, information on quantum mechanics to describe the nature and functioning of human consciousness, theoretical physics to explain the time-space dimension and means by which expanded human consciousness transcends it, classical physics to bring the whole phenomenon of out-of-body states into the language of physical science, and remove the stigma of an occult connotation. Before diving into the gateway experience, Wayne develops a frame of reference by dissecting 3 discrete consciousness-altering methodologies. He's basically saying, there's no way you're going to get through the gateway without a solid grounding in the brain altering techniques that came before it. 1. He begins with hypnosis. The language is extremely dense, but the basic gist is as follows. The left side of the brain screens incoming stimuli, categorizing, assessing and assigning meaning to everything through self-cognitive, verbal, and linear reasoning. The left hemisphere then dishes the carefully prepared data to the non-critical, holistic, pattern-oriented right hemisphere, which accepts everything without question. Hypnosis works by putting the left side to sleep, or at least distracting it long enough to allow incoming data direct, unchallenged entry to the right hemisphere. There, stimuli can reach the sensor and motor cortices of the right brain, which corresponds to points in the body. Suggestions then can send electrical signals from the brain to certain parts of the body. Directing these signals appropriately, according to the report, can elicit reactions ranging from left leg numbness to feelings of happiness. Same goes for increased powers of concentration. 2. Wayne continues with a snapshot of transcendental meditation. Through concentration, the subject draws energy up the spinal cord, resulting in acoustical waves that run through the cerebral ventricles to the right hemisphere, where they stimulate the cerebral cortex, run along the homunculus, and then to the body. The waves are the altered rhythm of heart sounds, which create sympathetic vibrations in the walls of the fluid-filled cavities of the brain's ventricles. He observed that the symptoms begin in the left side of the body, confirming the right brain's complicity. Bentov also states that the same effect might be achieved by prolonged exposure to 4 or 7 Hz per second acoustical vibrations. He suggests standing by an air conditioning duct might also do the trick. David Lynch and other celebrities are committed adherents to transcendental meditation today. 3. Biofeedback, on the other hand, uses the left hemisphere to gain access to the right brain's lower cerebral, motor, and sensory cortices. Whereas hypnosis suppresses one side of the brain, and TEM bypasses that side altogether, biofeedback teaches the left hemisphere to visualize the desired result, recognize the feelings associated with right hemisphere access, and ultimately achieve the result again. With repetition, the left brain can reliably key into the right brain and strengthen the pathways so that it can be accessed during a conscious demand mode. A digital thermometer is subsequently placed on a target part of the body. When its temperature increases, objective affirmation is recognized and the state is reinforced. Achieving biofeedback can block pain, enhance feeling, and even suppress tumors, according to the report. With that, Wayne takes a first stab at the gateway process. He classifies it as a training system designed to bring enhanced strength, focus and coherence to the amplitude and frequency of brainwave output between the left and right hemispheres so as to alter consciousness. What distinguishes the gateway process from hypnosis, TEM, and biofeedback is that it requires achieving a state of consciousness in which the electrical brain patterns of both hemispheres are equal in amplitude and frequency. This is called Hemi-sync. Lamentably, and perhaps conveniently, we cannot as humans achieve this state on our own. The audio techniques developed by Bob Monroe and his institute, which comprise a series of tapes, claim to induce and sustain Hemi-sync. Here, the document shifts to the usage of quotes and other reports to describe the powers of Hemi-sync. Wayne employs the analogy of a lamp versus a laser. Left to its own devices, the human mind expends energy like a lamp in a chaotic and incoherent way, achieving lots of diffusion, but relatively little depth. Under Hemi-sync, though, the mind produces a disciplined stream of light. So, once the frequency and amplitude of the brain are rendered coherent, it can then synchronize with the rarefied energy levels of the universe. With this connection intact, the brain begins to receive symbols and display astonishing flashes of holistic intuition. The Hemi-sync technique takes advantage of a frequency-following response. It works like this. An external frequency emulating a recognized one will cause the brain to mimic it. So if a subject hears a frequency at the theta level, it will shift from its resting beta level. To achieve these unnatural levels, Hemi-sync puts a single frequency in the left ear and a contrasting frequency in the right. The brain then experiences the delta frequency, also known as the beat frequency. It's more familiarly referred to these days as binaural music, with the frequency following response and beat frequency phenomena firmly in place. The gateway process introduces a series of frequencies at marginally audible, subliminal levels. With the left brain relaxed and the body in a virtual sleep state, the conditions are ideal to promote brainwave outputs of higher and higher amplitude and frequency. Alongside subliminal suggestions from Bob Monroe, naturally, the subject can then alter their consciousness. The gateway system only works when the audio, which is introduced through headphones, is accompanied by a physical quietude comparable to other forms of meditation. This increases the subject's internal resonance to the body's sound frequencies, for example the heart. This eliminates the bifurcation echo, in which the heartbeat moves up and down the body 7 times a second. By placing the body in a sleep-like state, the gateway tapes, like meditation, lessen the force and frequency of the heartbeat pushing blood into the aorta. The result is a rhythmic sine wave that in turn amplifies the sound volume of the heart 3 times. This then amplifies the frequency of brainwave output. The film surrounding the brain, the dura, and fluid between that film and the skull, eventually begin to move up and down by 0.0005 millimeters and 0.010 millimeters. The body, based on its own micromotions, then functions as a tuned vibrational system. The report claims that the entire body eventually transfers energy at between 6.8 and 7.5 Hz, which matches Earth's own energy, circa 7.5 Hz. The resulting wavelengths are long, about 40,000 kilometers, which also happens to be the perimeter of the planet. According to Bentov, the signal can move around the world's electrostatic field in 1/7 of a second. To recap, the gateway process goes like this: induced state of calm, blood pressure lowers, circulatory system, skeleton and other organ systems begin to vibrate at 7.5 cycles per second. Increased resonance is achieved. The resulting sound waves matches the electrostatic field of the Earth. The body and Earth and other similarly tuned minds become a single energy continuum. We've gotten slightly ahead of ourselves here though. Let's go back. Wayne then turns to the very nature of matter and energy. More materially, or less, if you will, solid matter in the strict construction of the term, he explains, doesn't exist. The atomic structure is composed of oscillating energy grids surrounded by other oscillating energy grids at tremendous speeds. These oscillation rates vary. The nucleus of an atom vibrates at 10 to the power of 22. A molecule vibrates at 10 to the power of 9. A human cell vibrates at 10 to the power of 3. The point is that the entire universe is one complex system of energy fields. States of matter in this conception then are merely variations in the state of energy. The result of all these moving energies bouncing off of energy at rest projects a 3D mode, a pattern called a hologram, aka our reality as we experience it. It's best to think of it as a 3D photograph. There's a whole rabbit hole to go down here. Suffice it to say, the hologram that is our experience is incredibly good at depicting and recording all the various energies bouncing around creating matter. So good, in fact, that we buy into it, hook, line, and sinker, going so far as to call it our life. Consciousness then can be envisaged as a 3D grid system, superimposed over all energy patterns, Wayne writes. Using mathematics, each plane of the grid system can then reduce the data to a 2D form. Our binary, go, no go, minds can then process the data and compare it to other historical data saved in our memory. Our reality is then formed by comparisons. The right hemisphere of the brain acts as the primary matrix or receptor for this holographic input. The left hemisphere then compares it to other data, reducing it to its 2D form. In keeping with our species' commitment to exceptionalism, as far as we know, humans are uniquely capable of achieving this level of consciousness. Simply, humans not only know, but we know that we know. This bestows upon us the ability to duplicate aspects of our own hologram, project them out, perceive that projection, run it through a comparison with our own memory of the hologram, measure the differences using 3D geometry, then run it through our binary system to yield verbal cognition of the self. Wayne then shows his cards as a true punisher, issuing. Up to this point, our discussion of the gateway process has been relatively simple and easy to follow. Now the fun begins. Shots fired, Wayne. What he's preparing, the commander reading this heady report for, is the reveal how we can use the gateway to transcend the dimension of space-time. Time is a measurement of energy or force in motion. It is a measurement of change. This is really important. For energy to be classified as in motion, it must be confined within a vibratory pattern that can contain its motion, keeping it still. Energy not contained like this is boundary-less and moves without limit or dimension to infinity. This disqualifies boundary-less energy from the dimension of time because it has no rate of change. Energy in infinity, also called the absolute state, is completely at rest because nothing is accelerating or decelerating it. Again, no change. It therefore does not contribute to our hologram, our physical experience. We cannot perceive it. Now, back to frequencies. Wave oscillation occurs because a wave is bouncing between two rigid points of rest. It's like a game of electromagnetic hot potato, the potato being the wave, and the participants' hands being the bowies of the wave. Without these limits, there would be no oscillation. When a wave hits one of those points of rest, just for a very brief instant, it clicks out of space-time and joins infinity. For this to occur, the speed of the oscillation has to drop below 10, the power of minus 33 centimeters per second. For a moment, the wave enters into a new world. The potato simply disappears into a dimension we cannot perceive. Theoretically speaking, if the human consciousness wave pattern reaches a high enough frequency, the clickouts can reach continuity. Put another way, If the frequency of human consciousness can dip below 10 to the power of 33 centimeters per second, but above a state of total rest, it can transcend space-time. The gateway experience and associated Hemi-sync technique is designed for humans to achieve this state and establish a coherent pattern of perception in the newly realized dimensions. In theory, we can achieve the above at any time. The entire process, though, is helped along if we can separate the consciousness from our body. It's like an existential running head start where the click out of a consciousness already separated from its body starts much closer to and has more time to dialogue with other dimensions. This is where things get a little slippery. Hold on as best you can. The universe is in on the whole hologram thing too, Wayne writes. This super hologram is called a torus because it takes the shape of a fuck-off, massive, self-contained spiral. Like this. Give yourself a moment to let the above motion sink in. This pattern of the universe conspicuously mirrors the patterns of electrons around the nucleus of an atom. Galaxies north of our own are moving away from us faster than the galaxies to the south. Galaxies to the east and west of us are more distant. The energy that produced the matter that makes up the universe we presently enjoy will turn back in on itself eventually. Its trajectory is ovoid, also known as the cosmic egg. As it curls back on itself, it enters a black hole, goes through a densely packed energy nucleus, then gets spat out the other side of a white hole, and begins the process again. Springtime in the cosmos. The entire universe hologram, the torus, represents all the phases of time, the past, present, and future. The takeaway is that human consciousness, brought to a sufficiently altered, focused state, could obtain information about the past, present, and future since they all live in the universal hologram simultaneously. Wayne reasons that our all-reaching consciousness eventually participates in an all-knowing infinite continuum, long after we depart the space-time dimension, and the hologram each one of us perceives is snuffed out. Our consciousness continues, reassuring in a way. And that is the context in which the gateway experience sits. Yes, okay, all very nice you say, but how do you reach the dimension of spacetime? The following is an outline of the key steps to reach focus levels necessary to defy the spacetime dimension. This is an involved and lengthy process, best attempted in controlled settings. The energy conversion box. The gateway process begins by teaching the subject to isolate any extraneous concerns using a visualization process called the energy conversion box. Resonant humming. The individual is introduced to resonant humming through the utterance of a protracted single tone alongside a chorus on the tapes. The mind and body achieve a state of resonance. The gateway affirmation. The participant is exposed to something close to a mantra called the gateway affirmation. They must repeat to themselves variations of, "I am merely a physical body and deeply desire to expand my consciousness." Hemi-sync. The individual is finally exposed to the hemi-sync sound frequencies and encouraged to develop a relationship with the feelings that emerge. Additional noise. Physical relaxation techniques are practiced while the hemi-sync frequencies are expanded to include pink and white noise. This puts the body in a state of virtual sleep while calming the left hemisphere and raising the attentiveness of the right hemisphere. The energy balloon. The individual is then encouraged to visualize the creation of an energy balloon beginning at the top of the head extending down in all directions to the feet, then back up again. There are a few reasons for this, the main one being that this balloon will provide protection against conscious entities possessing lower energy levels that he or she may encounter when in the out-of-body state. Focus 12. The practitioner can consistently achieve sufficient expanded awareness to begin interacting with dimensions beyond their physical reality. To achieve this state requires conscious efforts and more pink and white noise from the sound stream. Tools. Once Focus 12 is achieved, the subject can then employ a series of tools to obtain feedback from alternate dimensions. Problem solving. The individual identifies fundamental problems, fills their expanded awareness with them, and then projects them out into the universe. These can include personal difficulties, as well as technical or practical problems. Patterning. Consciousness is used to achieve desired objectives in the physical, emotional, or intellectual sphere. Color breathing. A healing technique that revitalizes the body's energy flows by imagining colors in a particularly vivid manner. Energy bar tool. This technique involves imagining a small, intensely pulsating dot of light that the participant charges up. He or she then uses the sparkling, vibrating cylinder of energy, formerly known as the dot, to channel forces from the universe to heal and revitalize the body. Remote viewing, a follow-on technique of the energy bar tool, where the dot is turned into a whirling vortex through which the individual sends their imagination in search of illuminating insights. Living body map, a more organized use of the energy bar, in which streams of different colors flow from the dot onto correspondingly colored bodily systems. 7 days of training have now occurred. Approximately 5% of participants get to this next level, according to the report. Focus 15. Travel into the past. Additional sound on the Hemi-sync tapes includes more of the same, plus some subliminal suggestions to further expand the consciousness. The instructions are highly symbolic. Time is a huge wheel, in which different spokes give access to the participant's past. Focus 21. The future. This is the last and most advanced state. Like Focus 15, this is a movement out of space-time into the future. Out-of-body movement. Only one tape of the many is devoted to out-of-body movement. This tape is devoted to facilitating an out-of-body state when the participant's brainwave, patterns and energy levels reach harmony with the surrounding electromagnetic environment. According to Bob Monroe, the participant has to be exposed to beta signals of around 2877.3 cycles per second. Wayne expresses concern about the fidelity of information brought back from out-of-body states using the gateway technique. Practical applications are of particular concern because of the potential for information distortion. The Monroe Institute also ran into a bunch of issues in which they had individuals travel from the west to the east coast of the United States to read a series of numbers off of a computer screen. They never got them exactly right. Wayne chalks this up to the trouble of differentiating between physical entities and extra time-space dimensions when in the out-of-body state. Wayne swings back to support mode though, lending credence to the physics foundation of the report. He cites multiple belief systems that have established identical findings. These include the Tibetan Sho, the Hindu heaven of Indra, the Hebrew mystical philosophy, and the Christian concept of the Trinity. Here, he seems more interested in hammering home the theoretical underpinnings that make the gateway experience possible, rather than the practical possibilities promised by the gateway tapes. Possibly with his Chie-top brass audience in mind, Wayne then gives a type nod to the gateway experience for providing a faster, more efficient, less subservient, energy-saving route to expanded consciousness. This finishes with a series of recommendations to the CEA for how to exploit Gateway's potential for national defense purposes. One curious feature of the Gateway report is that it seems to be missing page 25. It's a real cliffhanger too. The bottom of page 24 reads, "And the eternal thought or concept of self which results from this self-consciousness serves the..." The report picks back up on page 26 and 3 sections later, as if Wayne hadn't just revealed the very secret of existence. In 2021, during the world lockdown period, this page 25, that seems to be an extremely crucial page, comes out and goes viral thanks to TikTok. The CIA has denied they ever had it in the first place. Page 25, then, has been the holy grail not just for would-be astral projectors, but also for conspiracy theorists, government transparency activists, and people who have simply read the report and found themselves maddened by this missing information. The page 25 opens with the word absolute. It sits there authoritatively, as if guarding the gate to the rest of the text. In the broader context of the report, the term is applied to both spiritual belief systems and quantum physics alike. It's an important word. Physicists define time as a measurement of energy in motion. In this way, time is really a measurement of change. In order for that motion to occur, though, it must be limited inside a larger vibratory pattern. Inside this framework, it is limited, contained at a specific location. That confinement then makes it distinguishable from other locations in space. Uncontained energy is force without limit. Imagine a formless entity speeding through the galaxy with no friction to hold it back from being everywhere. As McDonald puts it, there is no here to differentiate it from there. And this, my friends, is an absolute state, or the absolute. According to the report, the absolute is essentially the governing energy of the universe en masse. It powers the universal hologram that is all of entirety. The report makes multiple attempts to visualize this universal hologram or cosmic egg as one big, constantly flowing spiral. Between the reality we know and the absolute are countless intervening dimensions, McDonald writes, which is pretty trippy stuff for a government report. Absolute is the ceiling, as far as we know it. End of the line, and a hell of a way to open a missing page. McDonald observes that a stylized representation of spiral is present in every religious system in history. He cites the specific examples of Christianity's Holy Spirit, the Hellenic world's labyrinth, the Hebrew tree of life, its Hindu counterpart, and the Chinese spiral through the four powers. This thinking has found its way into each system's teachings. The crucial distinction between the breakthroughs in modern physics and the epiphanies of religious thinkers is the way they all found the absolute. Whereas physics leans on quantitative research, religions relied on intuition. The gateway then sort of showed up just in time. A holistic mainline for interfacing with the universal hologram, freeing us from the limitations of a left-brain logic-based culture. The page's third section takes a slant, which should feel familiar to adherents of modern psychology. The universe, the absolute, the cosmic egg, all of it is irrelevant and certainly unreachable until we possess knowledge of ourselves. Upon first glance of page 25, picked up the absolute first, then darted swiftly to the aphorism McDonald trots out here, know thyself. What hits even harder than achieving a psychological self-understanding? According to McDonald, is the sense of self-perception achieved when one can manage to alter their state of consciousness to the point where the universal hologram itself can be perceived. And it's the gateway experience, McDonald says, that promises this possibility. Key to the report and technique for achieving astral projection is an audio technology developed by Robert Monroe, a radio broadcasting executive who, in the 1970s, built and readied division inside his company solely to study the effects of sound on human consciousness. In a series of self-experiments in which he exposed himself to carefully calibrated audio frequencies while sleeping, Monroe repeatedly achieved elevated mind-body states. Monroe produces tapes containing audio techniques to stimulate brain functions and achieve Hemi-sync. As we have already seen, Hemi-sync is short for hemispheric synchronization and is instrumental in achieving a state of consciousness in which the electrical brain patterns of both left and right hemispheres are equal in amplitude and frequency. It does so by combining two techniques. The first is frequency following response. A recognized external frequency is introduced by headphones, which causes the brain to try to mimic the same frequency by adjusting its brainwave output. For instance, a resting brain that hears a theta level will shift out of its beta level. The second technique is beat frequency. Contrasting frequencies are introduced to each ear. The brain then chooses to hear the difference between them. A brain receiving 100 Hz through the right ear and 104 Hz through the left can then detect a delta, in this case, a 4 Hz frequency. The technique then opens the brain to a variety of frequencies which are played at a virtually subliminal, marginally audible level. With the left brain relaxed and the body in a virtual sleep state, according to the report, the conditions are ideal to promote brainwave outputs of higher and higher amplitude and frequency. When the wave pattern of a consciousness drops below an oscillation frequency of 10 to the power of -33 centimeters per second, for a brief instant it clicks out of space-time and joins infinity. Monroe's theories maintain that if that click-out can achieve continuity, you can begin dialoguing with other dimensions. And that's all I have to tell you about the gateway experience. Please, if you have any experience with the out-of-body experience, write it down below, and I will be happy to collect it in a new video. If you liked this content, please like and subscribe to the channel to support this project.